Everyone talks about no contact after heartbreak. But what if I told you that silence alone doesn't work? That disappearing won't save your dignity? That ignoring her doesn't make her respect you? You weren't just hurt. You were used, played, manipulated. And now you're trying to heal by doing nothing, while hoping she notices. But here's the truth most won't say out loud. You don't take power back by vanishing. You take power back when you become someone she can't control, even if she tried. Comment: I reclaim my power. Number 1. You take back control. You take back control when you stop being the puppet of her inconsistency. When her attention no longer dictates your worth. When her silence no longer feels like rejection but becomes irrelevant. When her texts don't make your heart race because you've already stopped needing her permission to breathe. When her withdrawal doesn't freeze your world because you've already learned to stand alone. When you stop checking if she saw your story because your life is no longer built for her to watch. When her games don't pull your focus because you've finally figured out that she isn't the prize. You are, and always have been, and you were simply too blind to see it while chasing crumbs, hoping it would one day turn into a feast. But that day never came because the game was never about feeding you. It was about keeping you hungry and confused, and always just a little insecure, so she could keep control without ever needing to give anything real. And now you're awake and it hurts because you realize how long you played along, how often you twisted yourself into someone small just to be tolerated, how many times you rationalized being ignored, disrespected, belittled, because part of you thought being chosen meant you were enough. But now you understand. Control is not something you beg for. It's something you become. It's earned in silence and built in private. It's when you can sit in your room alone with no phone buzz, no notifications, no dopamine hits, and you're still at peace because your purpose is louder than your loneliness. Your habits are stronger than your urges, and your self-worth is no longer held hostage by someone who left you on red when you realize you've spent too long performing like an emotional clown hoping she'd clap. When in reality, she was just entertained by how easily you broke, how predictable your pain made you, how often she could test your boundaries and still be welcomed back. And taking back control means the door doesn't just close, it locks, not out of anger, but out of finality. Not to get back at her, but to protect the version of you that finally values himself enough to protect his peace. And you don't do it dramatically. You don't send a long paragraph. You don't explain what she lost. You simply leave, rebuild, and never announce your return. Because the comeback isn't about proving her wrong. It's about finally becoming right with yourself. And you start by choosing discomfort over distraction, discipline over impulse, and truth over validation, and it hurts. It rips through the ego like a blade, because healing forces you to confront how much of your identity was built around being accepted by someone who didn't even value themselves. And now that you see it, you can't unsee it, and you don't want to go back. Because now you understand how dangerous it is to build a life around someone who doesn't even show up consistently in theirs. So you wake up early, not because it's trendy, but because the version of you that kept snoozing is the same one who tolerated disrespect. And now your time is sacred, your goals are urgent, your focus is locked, and she can post all the bait she wants. It doesn't even reach your radar, because you're too focused on the empire you're building to look back at the house that burned. And when her name pops up, not even your heartbeat moves, because the power isn't in ignoring her. It's in being unreachable, not out of pride, but because you no longer vibrate at the frequency that allows access to people who only show up when they feel like it. And when the old thoughts show up, the memories, the what-ifs, the emotional loops, you don't fight them, you face them, you acknowledge them, and then you move, because motion is healing, movement is freedom, and control isn't about emotionlessness, it's about mastery. The ability to feel deeply and still choose wisely, the strength to hurt and still hold your boundaries, the wisdom to recognize that real self-respect means keeping the promises you make to yourself, even when nobody's watching, especially when it's hard, because that's where your character is rebuilt, not in what you say, but in what you no longer tolerate. And every moment you resist the urge to reach out, every second you stay true to the new standard, every time you choose growth over comfort, you're stacking wins, silently, consistently, and that silence speaks louder than any apology she could ever give, because control isn't loud. It's relentless. It's private. It's when you no longer hope she sees your progress because you don't need her to, and whether she regrets it or not becomes irrelevant, because her opinion was never the measure of your value, and now you know. You take back control by remembering who you were before you handed it away, by becoming the version of you that no longer needs to be chosen because he already chose himself. And that man is rare, unshaken, respected, and absolutely untouchable, and that is the foundation she can't shake. The one the old you never had, the one you never knew you needed until now, and from this point forward, everything changes, not because she sees it, but because you finally believe it. And if you're ready to keep becoming that man, steady, grounded, untouchable, then the Stoic relationship blueprint is your next step. This isn't just a book, it's a path filled with timeless principles that have quietly shaped the strongest men for centuries. Now available in audiobook format, you can listen to this life-changing guide while you walk, drive, train, or simply sit in silence, rebuilding yourself. Once you own it, it's yours forever. You'll have these principles with you for life, to revisit, to strengthen, to realign whenever the world tries to pull you off course. The link's in the comments. Step into the version of you that no longer asks questions. He makes decisions. Number 2, you outgrow the old you. There's a version of you she thought would never leave. One that begged for her time, waited for her texts, justified her distance, forgave her disrespect, and adjusted himself just to stay wanted. And that version of you was never love. It was survival. It was hope clinging to fantasy. It was comfort in dysfunction, and that man was never free. He was just tolerated, controlled by the dopamine hit of being noticed again after days of silence, held hostage by crumbs of validation handed out only when you looked like you were pulling away, so she could keep the leash tight enough to pull, loose enough to deny. And now you see it clearly, painfully, and with each realization, the old you begins to die, not because someone saved you, but because you finally got tired of living in a cycle where your peace depended on someone else's attention span. And this death is quiet, slow, but certain, because the day you stop chasing is the day you start creating. The moment you stop needing answers is the moment you start asking the right questions, like, why did you believe loyalty meant endurance at the cost of your self-respect? Why did you lower your voice every time she raised hers? Why did you keep negotiating your value like it was a discount item? And that introspection is where the real growth begins, not in the gym selfies or the silence or the quotes, but in the hard conversations with yourself at midnight when nobody else is watching, when the truth starts screaming louder than you're coping. And the truth is, you weren't in love with her. You were in love with the idea that being enough for her would finally make you enough for yourself. And now that you've burned that illusion, you're not bitter, you're rebuilding. And this time it's real, it's rooted, it's ruthless in the best way, because you're no longer seeking to impress. You're becoming undeniable to yourself, not with words, but with action, with discipline, with boundaries that don't flex depending on who walks in and out. And you start to feel it, the shift, when you wake up and she's not the first thought anymore, when your goals aren't distractions from the pain, but paths through it, when her name doesn't echo, but your own voice gets louder, clearer, stronger, and you realize that the old version of you needed her to see your worth to believe in it. But the new you doesn't wait to be seen. He simply becomes, quietly, consistently, and without apology. And now her games don't work. Her silence doesn't trigger you. Her half-effort doesn't earn access. Not because you hate her, but because she's irrelevant to the person you're becoming, because access to you is now earned through respect, consistency, and presence. Not beauty, not history, not drama, not guilt. And the old you would have jumped at the chance to fix things, to talk one more time, to just understand. But the new you doesn't need understanding from someone who never understood themselves. The new you accepts that not everyone who hurt you meant to, but that doesn't make them safe to keep around. And so you evolve, slowly, deeply, and in a way that can't be faked, because this isn't about trends or revenge or proving her wrong. This is about finally building a version of yourself you're proud to wake up as. A version that doesn't fold under pressure, doesn't compromise under loneliness, and doesn't settle for less just to avoid the discomfort of letting go. Because letting go is no longer the pain, it's the freedom. And what hurts now is not that she's gone, but that you almost stayed that man forever. The one who thought love meant endurance, who thought forgiveness meant forgetting patterns, who thought potential was more important than reality. But now you know, potential is a trap when it keeps you stuck. Loyalty is dangerous when it's given without merit, and love is not pain disguised as passion. It's peace, and that peace doesn't come from finding someone new. It comes from becoming someone new. And now the work begins, not just in the physical, but in the mental, in the spiritual, in the way you speak to yourself, show up for yourself, and move when no one is watching. Because the version of you that was addicted to her approval never knew how to walk alone. And now you do, step by step. And though some days you'll slip, you won't stay down, because you've tasted what it means to rise. And you can't go back to crawling for affection when you've learned how to stand in conviction. And there will be moments, memories, flashes, reminders, but you'll notice that they no longer paralyze you. They pass like clouds, and in their place comes clarity, and with that clarity comes power, and with that power comes responsibility. Not to fix others, but to keep fixing yourself. Not to prove anything, but to embody. Everything you once begged for, and now you give it to yourself. Loyalty, presence, commitment, safety. Not as a gift, but as a standard. And that standard doesn't fluctuate based on who walks away, because it's not reactive anymore, it's chosen. And every step forward is no longer about escaping your past. It's about owning your present. And the people who once manipulated you will either watch in disbelief or disappear, because the energy you carry now is not attraction, it's direction. And it scares people who only knew how to keep you confused. And maybe she'll circle back. Maybe she'll test the waters. Maybe she'll send the "I miss you" text at 2 a.m. when the validation runs dry. But you won't need to respond, because you'll already be gone, not just from her life, but from the version of you that needed her. And that version of you isn't coming back, because you outgrew the patterns, the loops, the late-night scrolling, the begging, the overthinking, the staying after being disrespected, and what replaced it isn't arrogance, it's alignment, with purpose, with peace, with truth. And that truth can't be undone by nostalgia or attraction or memory, because once you truly outgrow someone, you don't shrink again to make them comfortable. You don't re-enter a house you had to burn down to survive. You don't fit into the same spaces you once begged to be let into, because you've expanded, and your silence isn't absence. It's evolution, and she feels it even if she never admits it. And maybe the closure you needed was never a conversation. It was this growth, this shift, this rise, this quiet, undeniable, irreversible becoming. Number 3. Your peace exposes her chaos. You notice the shift, not when she leaves, but when she tries to come back and you don't flinch, when her energy returns but doesn't affect your direction, when her attempt to regain access fails because the man she left behind isn't here anymore. And what unsettles her isn't your silence, it's your stillness. It's your refusal to respond, not out of passive aggression, but because you genuinely don't need to anymore. Because the man who once hung on every text is now focused on his craft. Because the version of you who once reacted to every emotional swing now doesn't swing at all. And that lack of reaction is louder than any reply you could have given. Because peace is no longer something you pretend to have. It's real, and real peace terrifies the kind of woman who thrives in chaos, who used confusion as control, who spun the narrative to make you question yourself every time she disappeared and returned without explanation. And now she doesn't know what to do with you, because you're no longer dancing to music she plays. You're not even in the same room anymore. And that unsettles her because she built her power on your emotional instability, on being the center of your thoughts, on knowing that even when she was absent, your mind was still hers. And now that space has been reclaimed, that energy redirected, that control shattered, not by confrontation, but by self-respect. And she sees it, she feels it. And instead of pulling you, she spirals, because the woman who controlled through chaos cannot exist where clarity lives, where peace is consistent, where your presence is no longer a response, but a standard that must be earned. And that new standard exposes everything she's been running from, her lack of consistency, her inability to build, her addiction to attention, her emotional recklessness, and you don't even have to speak it. Your peace says it all. It's a reflection of everything she's not and everything you've become, and it eats at her not because you've moved on, but because you've done it without drama, without collapse, without the breakdown she expected, because chaos expects company, but you didn't RSVP this time, and instead of fighting, you evolved, and that evolution burns. Not because it was meant to, but because she now understands that her influence was the last thing holding you back, and now unchained, you're thriving, and it's not loud, it's not flashy, it's focused, it's grounded, it's permanent, and she notices not just in your lack of presence, but in your unshakable direction, in the way your energy no longer flickers when her name pops up, in how she can post and perform, and you don't respond, because the performance doesn't reach the man who is no longer in the audience, and she can't admit it, she can't say it, but she feels it. Your peace disrupts her, not because it was meant to, but because it reveals how unstable she really is. Because in the face of your balance, her patterns look immature, her games feel childish, and her absence no longer feels like punishment. It feels like a blessing, and she can't wrap her mind around the fact that her silence no longer creates fear, that her presence no longer offers excitement, that her attention no longer validates you, and she realizes she was never your peace, just a pause in your growth, a distraction from your purpose, and now that purpose is all you see, all you chase, all you become, and there's no room for chaos in that path, no room for manipulation, no time for back and forths, no energy for temporary people playing permanent games. And you're not angry, you're indifferent. Not because you're numb, but because you've healed. Because healing doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've made peace with the fact that not everyone who touches your heart deserves a second touch. And when she tests you, when she sends the messages, when she tries to spark a response and gets none, she spirals. Not because you're cruel, but because you've become untouchable in the areas she once controlled, and the silence you now walk in is not empty, it's full of intention, of purpose, of growth, of things she can no longer interfere with. And now she watches from a distance, hoping to feel missed, hoping to spark a response, hoping to disturb the peace she never helped build. And all she's met with is stillness. Not fake, not forced, but rooted, and that stillness is her consequence. Not because you designed it, but because she earned it. And now she sits in the seat she carved for herself, and maybe she'll say you changed, maybe she'll say you're cold, but what she won't say is that your chaos was never yours. It was hers, and now that it has nowhere to land, she finally has to face it alone. And your peace was never the goal, it was the result of you. Choosing you over emotional games, and now that peace is permanent, not because she gave it, but because you stopped giving her the ability to take it away. Number 4, you stop needing closure. She never gave you closure because she was never built to provide it. Not because you don't deserve it, but because giving it would require accountability. And accountability isn't something you ever truly received from her, because that would mean facing the reality of what she did, the lies, the gaslighting, the sudden changes in energy without explanation, the hot and cold push and pull cycle that kept you addicted to answers she never intended to give. And now you realize closure is not something owed. It's something forged in fire, something earned through personal accountability, not someone else's explanation. And the longer you waited to hear her say why she lost interest, why she ghosted after being intimate, why she made promises she never intended to keep, the more you delayed your healing, because closure is just a disguise for continued emotional dependence. It's the illusion that her words could undo what her actions made clear, but clarity was there the whole time. You just weren't ready to accept it, because it's easier to believe there's a reason that makes it make sense than to admit she simply didn't care the way you hoped she did. And that's what hurts. Not just that she left, but that she didn't even look back. That you were sitting in the same spot emotionally while she moved on like nothing happened, laughing in photos, dating someone else, posting online while you're trying to make sense of conversations, trying to decode mixed signals, trying to justify behavior that was unjustifiable, and you carry it like dead weight, replaying every message, rereading chats, hoping maybe you missed something. Maybe there's a piece that will finally click and make you feel better, but it never comes, and you start realizing the closure you've been chasing is just avoidance, because as long as you need her to give you peace, you'll never give it to yourself, and the breakthrough comes not when you get the answers, but when you stop needing them, when you stop craving the apology, the text, the explanation, and you stop needing it because you now understand that someone who cared would never leave you in confusion to begin with, that someone who respected you would never let you drown in questions just so they could stay comfortable, and the fact that she did says everything you need to know, and you don't need her to say it, because actions don't lie, and that's where the Stoic part of you finally kicks in. Not the emotionless version, but the grounded version, the version that understands that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, that you can't control what she did, but you can control how long you let it define you. And that's the beginning of power, when you take your narrative back, when you stop calling it heartbreak and start calling it awakening, when you realize the pain is not a punishment, it's a process, and the purpose was never to get her back, it was to get you back. The version of you who doesn't beg, who doesn't wait by the phone, who doesn't check who watched the story, who doesn't feel worthless when someone else walks away. Because the value is internal now. It's built on discipline, on action, on walking through the fire and coming out sharper, not broken. And every time the urge hits to message her, to check on her, to just get closure, you catch it, and you choose silence, not to manipulate, not to get a reaction, but because your path no longer involves her. And even if she does message you one day with some half-hearted apology, some nostalgic curiosity, you won't need it. Because closure isn't about words, it's about peace. And peace isn't given, it's earned, it's chosen, it's protected by walking away without needing to explain why. Because your growth is the explanation. And now you understand why she left so messy. Because that's all she knew, and waiting for a clean ending from someone who thrives in confusion is like waiting for someone to rebuild the house they burned down. and expecting them to live in it again with you. And you don't want that house anymore. You don't want to reopen those wounds just to hear something you already know, because closure doesn't come from closure. It comes from closure with yourself. The moment you stop giving someone else the power to write the ending of your story, the moment you pick up the pen and close the chapter, not with anger but with finality, with resolve, with maturity. And yes, it's painful, yes, it feels incomplete, but that's life. Sometimes the most important chapters end in silence, and you learn to be okay with that. Not because it didn't matter, but because you finally decided to matter more to yourself than someone who couldn't choose you with clarity. And now you rise. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. And the longer you wait for her to understand what she did, the longer you delay becoming who you're meant to be. So stop waiting, stop checking, stop analyzing, and start moving, start building, start choosing yourself with the same intensity you used to choose her. And soon you'll notice something. The questions fade, the pain dulls, the obsession breaks, and what's left is not emptiness, but freedom. And that freedom can't be earned through anyone else's words. It's born the moment you stop needing closure and start building a future that doesn't include her name on the final page. Number 5. You became unshakable. There comes a point where you no longer bend for the people who used to break you, and it doesn't come through revenge or rage or outbursts or playing the same emotional games that once left you drained. It comes in silence, in stillness, in internal alignment so deep that their chaos no longer lands. Their guilt trips don't move you. Their messages don't trigger you. Their existence doesn't matter to the choices you make today. And this isn't fake strength. It's not surface-level detachment. This is bone deep. This is the moment you become unshakable. Not because nothing hurts anymore, but because nothing controls you anymore. Not the memories, not the regret, not the what-ifs. Because now you've come to terms with the truth that most people spend their lives running from, that the person you once gave everything to never deserved all of you, and that includes the emotional debt you kept carrying long after they left. The attachment you called love that was actually dependence. The obsession with getting their attention that masked your own fear of being alone, and you no longer shame yourself for that version of you. You honor him by letting him go, by evolving past him, by becoming someone he would never believe was possible. And what makes you unshakable isn't perfection. It's clarity. It's knowing what you will and won't tolerate anymore. It's waking up with purpose that doesn't include being liked, being chosen, or being understood by the ones who mishandled you. It's choosing what builds you even when it's not comfortable, especially when it's not convenient, and walking through it anyway because emotional strength is forged in the fires of restraint, in the resistance of instant gratification, in the rejection of false peace. And you've seen it all now. The attention bait, the recycled apologies, the shallow "I miss yous" that come when she's bored, not when she's changed. And you no longer interpret those moments as hope. You see them for what they are, weakness disguised as affection, attempts to regain control without ever taking responsibility, and you don't fall for it. Not because you hate her, but because you love your future too much to let your past interrupt it again. Because unshakable means you no longer let the same person hurt you twice and call it fate. You don't call chaos chemistry anymore. You don't romanticize inconsistency. You don't sacrifice your identity for emotional crumbs. And even when you're lonely, even when the nights get heavy and the memories creep in, you stand, not because it's easy, but because you've tasted what it means to collapse, and you refuse to go back. You refuse to shrink again to fit inside someone's comfort zone. You refuse to bite your tongue to keep the peace with people who benefit from your silence. And your strength is now in how boring your life looks to people who only valued the version of you they could manipulate, because peace doesn't look dramatic. Healing doesn't look loud. Success doesn't look like a highlight reel. And you don't post every breakthrough. You don't share every move, because your growth is no longer performance. It's standard. It's non-negotiable. It's invisible to the unqualified and magnetic to the aligned. And now you move different. You speak different. You decide different. And she notices. Maybe she won't say it. Maybe she won't admit it, but she feels it. And deep down, she knows the man you've become is no longer someone she has access to. Not because you blocked her, but because you've become so focused on your path, so grounded in your truth, so committed to your values, that no amount of nostalgia can undo the work you've done. No amount of beauty can override the boundaries you've set. No amount of emotional bait can make you pick up a phone you've already let go of. And this scares people who thought they'd always have a place in your life because your strength used to be a threat to you. It used to make you feel guilty, selfish, arrogant for choosing yourself. But now it's your compass, and you follow it ruthlessly, not out of ego, but out of necessity, because you've seen what happens when you don't, when you betray your intuition, when you justify the red flags, when you stay too long, hope too much, believe too deeply in someone who never chose you fully, and you've forgiven yourself for that. But you've also promised yourself never again, and that promise is sacred, that standard is final, and your life reflects it now, in how you walk, how you speak, how you treat your body, your mind, your time, how you don't need to explain yourself to people who don't ask real questions, how you don't seek validation from people who never validated your worth in the first place. And when people ask what changed, you don't even explain, because becoming unshakable isn't about being understood. It's about being whole, and the people meant for you will feel it without needing a reason, and the people not meant for you will feel it as distance. And either way, you're okay with it, because the old you needed connection to feel grounded, but the new you is grounded before connection ever happens. And this is the gift you didn't expect, the power to walk away from what you once begged to keep, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about the right things, the right people, the right habits. And now your peace isn't something you protect, it's who you are, and no one can take that from you again, not because they won't try, but because they no longer can. Because you've become unshakable not through force, but through consistency, through standards, through quiet mornings, through hard nights, through discipline when it was easier to quit, through rebuilding yourself brick by brick with no applause, no validation, and no external reward, just the quiet knowing that you're finally someone who never abandons himself. And that is the foundation she can't shake, the one the old you never had. The one you never knew you needed until now. And from this point forward, everything changes. Not because she sees it, but because you finally believe it. The truth is, society doesn't want you holding this kind of power, because a man who sees clearly, who controls his emotions, who doesn't break under female manipulation, can't be used, can't be played, can't be broken. That's why the Stoic relationship blueprint isn't just a book. It's a threat to everything that kept you weak. It's filled with timeless, forgotten truths that will flip everything you've been taught upside down and rebuild you from the inside out. And now, it's finally available as an audiobook, so you can walk, jog, or train while feeding your mind with the only principles that never lie, never bend, and never beg. If you're tired of being lied to, used, or replaced, and you're ready to rise, comment, "I choose power," like, and subscribe to help another man escape years of silent suffering. The link's in the comments.